Hello everyone, this is Wei, and today we're going to talk about OpenLive3D, and this is the devlog of March. In March, we actually did more stuff. The first thing that we did is that we have a feature development. We set the limitation for our FPS. So if you don't want your machine to run everything at 60 or even 120 FPS, you can set a limitation to it so that you can run it on 30 FPS so that it consumes less resources. And we solved three bugs. The first one is that currently OpenLive3D still doesn't work in Safari, sadly. So we detected Safari engine and asked the user to use a different browser. Right, it's the only solution. And the next one is that it's a serious bug that could prevent user from loading because of a failed VRM model URL. The third one is a cookie saving bug, and we have a question mark here, and yeah, we can talk about it later. The first feature that we did develop it this month is these FPS limitation, right? So when you open the menu by clicking the icon, and in the setting in general, you can see that there are two new parameters to set. And these are 3D FPS limit and ML FPS limit. You can see that the 3D rendering limit and the machine learning FPS limit are separated. They are running on different thread, right? Running on different computer thread. So their limitation can be set separately. If you don't change the limit, you will just consume all your resources normally. If you are using a Mac M1 or like 20 something GPU, the FPS is around 50 to 60 for the 3D rendering and around 20 for your machine learning, right? And you can set it lower so that it consumes less resources. The next one is the Safari loading bug. So sadly, mostly for everyone that is using Safari, we're using Mac, right? And Safari version is directly tied to your Mac OS version. So the current stable version for almost all the Mac OS is 16.3. And there is no support for you to process image outside of your main thread, right? So if we want to process image, we will want to process it in a canvas. It's basically a drawing board, right? So you need a drawing board to process image. And if you are not in the main thread, it means that you are not showing that in your browser website directly. And currently that is not supported in Safari yet. There is a beta version in experimentation stage that we could try, but it's still in experimental version, so I will not right now support this. And even if Safari provided support for offline canvas to process image in background, we might not be able to use Safari just yet because in their official guide, they don't have support to process image in background using WebGL, which is using GPU. And all of our computation is using GPU, right? So we still need to test it, even if Apple is said to release this beta 16.4 version this year. We still might not be able to support it just yet, but we'll see and we will test it. The next one is a failed model URL. So before this month, if you have your VRM model URL and you set it in the setting, and that's a wrong URL, and you actually click the save settings button, right? So in the setting general, there is a save setting. You click the save, and you set the wrong URL. when you try to restart this website, you will be stuck in the model loading stage, right? Because in the model loading, you will try to load a model, but with the wrong URL, which will not be able to load any model yet, right? So this month we added the recovery mechanism that when you try to load an VRM model and you got a failure, you will try to load a default model, right? So that you will not be stuck in the loading page. All right, the next and the last items that we developed is this cookie saving bug. So one of the community member reported that there is a save setting button, right? So we just mentioned it. So you can save your setting. But when he was using it, he found that sometimes the settings will not be saved. And this is actually not a bug. This is designed to do it because the behavior before this month, the behavior was that if there is a missing value, missing parameters in your saved configuration compared to our configuration settings, if there is missing parameters, we will reset everything. So a missing parameters can be when we're trying to save it, there is a failure, so some of the parameters are not saved, or the more common possibility is that we are updating OpenLive3D, so we are adding new parameters. So when we add the new parameters for everyone, and when you try to load your saved configuration, the settings will think that you miss a parameter, right? So you will reset everything. And we can recall what we have already developed this month, right? So we add the FPS limitation. And actually, in the last update, we are trying to handle the failure of the machine learning of the VRM model URL, and we actually add a new default model URL parameters. Right. So now we know why there's a problem that when we keep adding new parameters, all the settings for everyone will be reset. Right. So that's why this month we are adding this new mechanism. We're slightly changing the structure how parameters are saved and load. That if there is only a few missing parameters, we'll try to load their default value. And only when there are more than 20%, 25% of the parameters are missing, we will reset all parameters. So that when we are updating some of the new parameters into our systems, everyone's settings will not be reset. All right, so that's it for this month. We will continue to edit the development. I just noticed when I'm recording this video, I just noticed that Apple just released a new Mac OS version. So I'll test it out to see if things can finally work in Safari. And yeah, thank you everyone. See you next month.